Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond. Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, we're reviewing the week, basically looking at Uganda beyond the Golden Jubilee. Uganda is 50 years old from colonial master Britain, having attained independence on the 9th of October 1962. The constraints experienced during the 50 years have been the subject of debate over the last 2 months, and many activities have been organized to take stock of the political and economic issues. Some of the issues that have been named as critical for the future of the country include those centering around democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. At the Kololo Airstrip, President Yoweri Museveni unveiled a new 10-point program that is supposed to turn Uganda into a first world country within the next 50 years. The program includes dealing with ideological disorientation, building a strong and political conscience, building a strong private sector, skilling the human resource, developing critical infrastructure, expanding the internal market and regional trade, industrialization, expanding the services sector, investing in agriculture, and strengthening democracy. In order to achieve this, a new plan, the Uganda Vision 2040, is being fine-tuned as a basis for transformation. The opposition boycotted the function, but UPC legislator Betty Amongi attended it, saying the ceremony was not an NRM affair, but a national event that UPC, which laid the foundation of the country, must associate with. The 10 points highlighted by the president have been broadly welcomed, but many people insist that they will not be implemented due to the corruption that often goes unabated in government. So as we wind up the Golden Jubilee week, we look at the issues that emerged connected to the commemorations, as we also look at what we need to do to become a better nation. Our guests tonight, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Uganda representative at the East African Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Wanyoto.
Good evening, listeners.
We're also joined by Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACODE, also a lecturer of Peace and Security Studies at Makerere University. You're most welcome, Dr. Arthur.
Yes, good evening, listeners and viewers.
Because we're also on the internet, you can access a video of Spectrum of YouTube. We're also joined by Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also a social and political commentator. You're most welcome, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all the panelists and good evening to all the listeners.
We're also joined by Dr. David Mushabe, senior partner at the Mushabe Munungu and Company Advocacy. Most welcome, Dr. Mushabe.
Thank you, Edmond, for inviting me. Good evening, listeners and viewers.
Honorable Wanyoto, what struck you in the president's speech?
Why have you started with me?
You are in an NRM.
And you?
By day and an NRM by night.
And the rest of you?
I wear color white. All right.
You know, okay, the president's speech was, I cannot say there's anything that struck me because we've lived these challenges that he's talking about. He was only reconfirming the commitment of the government to tackle these challenges that bedevil our country, and that we need to deal with this so that we can able to move on. One of them really is corruption. Our country has resources that could have made us mark Uganda at 50 in a better state in terms of social services, the infrastructure, the road sector, the health sector. You know what is happening in public service and the education sector. You know, there are those basics that we could have done better by the time we were celebrating Uganda at 50. And I'm happy that I was able to address them and to re-echo a commitment of a leader to make sure that these issues are not just talked about. We want to see action and want to see Uganda a better space with an enabling environment for each one of us to exploit their full potential and harness the beautiful country that we all are proud of to identify with. That's what I saw, and now that he has put on paper, I think many people that work with him, me inclusive, should be able to audit ourselves and be more accountable than we were before Tuesday's statements were made.
So does the speech strike you? Does it strike a chord with you? Does he got his hand on the handles, or has he lost it?
The basics have been said, like I've said earlier. There therefore, there's nothing much that strikes me. I just want to say he has said it should be done, and people want to see it.
But he's in touch with reality. He's been in power 26 years. He's given a speech on an important
milestone. You see, let me tell you, Edmond. The challenges that have been put on paper, 26 years notwithstanding, are real. Everybody, I don't have to tell somebody that there's poor health services in Uganda. I don't have to tell you that, you know that. But at the head of it says that we have to do better. To me, he's saying what we need to do, and now that he has put on paper, we want to see action. That's what I'm saying. And it affects me much as it affects him, and everybody in Uganda should be able to push for our leaders to be more accountable and to deliver. And me, I'm happy that we are able to say, yes, it's now on paper, we want to see action.
Dr. Arthur, talk to us about this speech. Did it meet your expectations, or would you have written a better speech if you were working for him?
That's a very opinionated question. But I think, first of all, is to appreciate the leadership for organizing the independence celebrations, 50 years. And just to echo the point that you mentioned, this was an occasion for all Ugandans, irrespective of their political persuasion or ideology, really to come together. I think one of my disappointment was that this became an event that was not able to galvanize the country, because just like the Americans would say, rallying around the flag, this is an event that would have rallied every Ugandan around the flag, because we will never have another event like this one. But the point I'm making is, I think what I found missing in the speech was he didn't point about he didn't emphasize the investment in regional security. I think Uganda has made progress in terms of investing in regional security. Our role in the South Sudan, our role in Somalia, I think that is very, very important. But also, so we need actually to be investing in that as become East African community, but also because of the regional security challenges, do not respect one single country. But the second point, he did not talk about political transition. I think, having ruled this country for more than half of the independence period, I think the president should also have come out openly to talk about managing a political transition that would create sustainable conditions for sustainable peace and security. I think he needed to be bold on that one and talk about the political transition and what is likely to do now, because I think the country is still very fragmented. 50 years after independence, we still have a fractured and fragmented country, and I think he should invest most of the remaining time between now and 2016 to create that unified country which he can bequeath to the future and succeeding generations. More unified, more peaceful and prosperous. I think they needed to underpin that one. So in this
if you had to write a speech for him, you would talk about regional security.
Regional peace and security, the political transitions for sustainable peace and security, and also unifying.
You let him pronounce his retiring first from now.
If he want actually, it needed courage also to talk about actually because this country has missed an opportunity of transiting from peaceful transition from one leader to another. I think that's where we always get it wrong. So if President Museveni could help this country transit peacefully to another one, it would have established a foundation of sustainable peace and security.
And transition is an important thing. Zambia has had several changes of government since with Kenneth Kaunda having been in power 27 years, he handed over. They've had several transitions. They issued a Eurobond recently worth $500 million. It was oversubscribed 15 times. A signature onto the endorsement onto about their stability. And Ghana, the other countries they have good ratings by Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's.
But transition is a constitutional matter. It cannot be a president issue. Really, we have to, Arthur, we have to make some of these corrections before we forget. It's a constitutional matter. It cannot be that's why we make mistakes.
Leadership.
Dr. Mushabe, as you give us your own analysis, somebody complained that the president never spoke about Asians. Did he miss a good opportunity to speak about them? They were traumatized when they were expelled 40 years ago. Should he have not have spoken about them and reassured them that they can stay and build factories because they'll be safe for the future?
Well, there are so many issues that the president should have talked about, but of course there was that time constraint. he could not have held people there for so many hours. If you talk about Asians, then what about the Acholis who have suffered for so many hours?
The Asians have a unique history. They came from another continent. They came here. They were traumatized, chased away in 1972.
Well,
and they are rebuilding it.
Edmond, I could say that whereas the Asians have a unique history, they came from elsewhere and they suffered here. There are some Africans who are indigenous of this place and they have suffered more. So let us sort those issues as we go along. Probably he should have addressed it. I'm not trying to minimize what they went through. That was terrible, what Amin did to them. But for me, there are two things, actually three things that struck me. One was that there was little credit given to past leaders. There seems a tendency to rewrite the history of Uganda from 1986 and forget everything that happened prior to 1986. And the most interesting piece or speech at that ceremony was by Archbishop
Lukoromia. He prayed a prayer that day.
He prayed, but in that prayer he was addressing us. He talked about each and every leader that led Uganda. We are all humans, and our rationality is bounded. We have all sinned. We make mistakes. So I would like to see a leader who acknowledges that yes, we are all human. We are not fallible. We are infallible, and give them credit.
We're not infallible. We're fallible.
Thank you very much. Now give them credit, and also admit your own mistakes. But make a new promise. That, I think, would have invigorated this country. Admit your mistakes, but make a new promise. There's nothing that refreshes the heart and the mind more than admitting your mistakes, but making a commitment. That is why we make confessions. The second issue that struck me was the lack of mentioning corruption. These 10-point bottlenecks. I would have expected my beloved president to talk about corruption and give it a full paragraph. But here, when you look at the last paragraph, corruption is mentioned in passing. Which means that corruption is not considered by this regime as a big problem. Probably this speech, I suspect, was written by some people within the establishment whose hands may not be clean, and therefore the corruption was not supposed to make a big paragraph. So corruption, when you look at point number, when he talks about infrastructure, that is point number 5, inadequacy developed infrastructure, especially electricity, roads and railways, piped water. That is where corruption is abundant. And I would have expected my dear president to mention corruption. I commit fighting corruption from here on, because it is the one which has caused lack of development in these areas. The third one was, I would have loved one of the members of the opposition to be given opportunity to demonstrate to the rest of the country, look, this is democracy.
Who do you have chosen? Dr. Vesdio was at home busy doing work.
I don't know. What was he doing at home? But I think Dr. Vesdio could have been given opportunity. Olaro Tunu should have been given like a special invitation. Come. And the biggest strategy, the most common strategy in politics, you let the opponent speak before you. So when you come, you neutralize what they have said, and also you continue their things. But
you appreciate them.
You appreciate them, and also you neutralize some of the points that you think are fatal to your own program. Yes. But the nation would know that you appreciate.
You are a statesman.
You're a statesman, and I was talking to someone this evening before I came here. He was talking about one of the big political leaders in this country. He said his problem is that whenever he wins, he focuses more on those who voted for him, and he forgets those who never voted for him. And that he forgets that actually those who voted for him, he has remained with about 60%, the 40% has already left. And some of those who never voted for him have already crossed his side. So it is better that when you are voted into office, you become a parent and a statesman, you embrace all. and you accommodate all divergent views. So that is what I can say so far, but as far as I'm concerned, I think the celebration was in order, despite the facts that some of us have reservations. I don't think Africa is liberated yet, but let us celebrate the day when the white man said, okay, you know, I can't handle this anymore. So can you black people manage your own affairs? But I think we are far away from independence.
Far away from independence. Not yet Uhuru.
Not yet Uhuru.
Very, very powerful points, I must say, that you've mentioned. The leader should come and say, I made mistakes, sorry. That take, you know, really
and that commands a lot of respect from the masses.
And then inviting the opposition leaders and giving them a platform to read their unvetted speech.
And when a leader admits their own mistakes, they actually disarm the opposition.
They get much more liberty.
They got
more respect.
Exactly.
Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, talk to us about your own views about this speech.
Well, first and foremost, you must interrogate the whole concept of independence. Beyond our territorial control, is Uganda an independent state in the contemporary meaning of the word independence? I think that the concept of complete independence has been completely washed away by the emerging interdependent and interconnectedness of states, because things that are done here are sometimes affected by things that happen in Western capitals. So I think the whole concept of independence is more nostalgic. It's more about the pride of 1962 than what obtained in our country. I mean, you and I know for a fact that key economic drivers have got their masters quite out of our boundaries. So I think in terms of independence, it's more about nostalgia. It's about looking back at the past. It's pride about our history, because we are no longer an isolated country, independent country in terms of the world map. But that said, what do I think of President Museveni's speech? Edmond, I have known no other president than President Museveni. I was born in the 1980s. Looking at this speech, I see a speech stretching back and locating the achievements of the NRM government and comparing them with what happened in the past. That doesn't resonate with me as a young person. It does not. What I worry most about is not what Amin did or what he didn't do, what Obote did or what he didn't do, but rather what the NRM has done in the times I have lived in this country. I think that we've got to be a bit honest. What the president should have done, in my view, would be to inspire the people of this country. This speech was not inspirational. It was not inspirational. It was the old banter, the old talk about the 10-point programs. It didn't inspire a young person who is jobless. It didn't inspire a young person who is going to a school without a roof. A young person who has no chance of making it in life from a far village school. I didn't see that inspirational. Even in the manner of delivery. The manner of delivery. Forget about content.
Talk about the manner. What did you say there?
Forget about the content.
Yes.
The manner of delivery is inspirational. Perhaps he's been around too long, and then you become to expect the same things from him. I think that if I'm a young person listening to him, looking at him reading his speech, I wasn't inspired.
Yes.
I saw no promise for a better future for a young person. I saw no promise for an undertaking to make the people in this country a part of this country, because a large part of people in this country live in spite of government, not because of government. We've got to recommit government to its basic duty of providing for the people of our country. I didn't see that in this speech. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. Because you see, the reason many countries have been able to develop is because they have conquered the basics. What do we do in Uganda? We are still struggling with the basics. We are unable to free our people to innovate, to research, to think about new knowledge, because our people are preoccupied fighting for the basics in life, for food, for a good road, for a good school.
You want me to come in and chip in?
Please.
Okay, all right, go on.
I entirely agree with you, but I think really, anyway, maybe still setting my point, I think the president should have emphasized that 50 years of independence have been war, bloodletting and killing each other, and then set us on another trajectory. I know you promised about with oil money, that Uganda is going to become a first country. It's like, you show
first world
country. The first world country, a sugar candy kind of future, but without telling us how
the
to
path,
the details, and that's what he's talking about. But I think you are very, very right. What pains actually is that we didn't see a country together. A country together, and that's the point he has underpinned, Dr. Mushabe, that irrespective of our political persuasions, if we saw a country, it would have given assurance. Because I know Nicholas, of course, coming from the region, northern Uganda, the suffering that we've gone together, the pain we have inflicted on each other. I think this was an opportunity for the president and the leaders of opposition and everyone to say, never again, just like Israel, part of their national security, is never again, so that a new page of peace and stability is opened, and we start building a country into the future that provides, that promises that holistic security.
Nicholas, you mentioned national, not being fully independent. Who's to blame for that? We've had it for 50 years. How come we can't run our things? They gave us Mulago. We can't build another house like Mulago. They gave us a dam. It took the other country to build us another one. They gave us parliament. We're only still building a parking place for it. Who's to blame? 50 years of
Well, the overall concept which I locate that argument, it's not about who to blame for what we do, but rather because we are in a global world where events in Western capitals affect us fundamentally. That's the purview in which I raise the point of independence, because I think that boundaries have been opened. Boundaries mean nothing nowadays in terms of the drivers of our country. What happened, elections in the US are far more important, even perhaps sometimes more important than an appointment for a governor Bank of Uganda here. So that's the purview in which I make that argument. Not because I want somebody to blame, but even then, just to respond to what you said, the point that has to be made is that we've not been able to progress as much on our own as we would have done if perhaps the colonial masters have been here.
So it would have been better that
let's just look down south and see how much they have gone far, because they stayed longer.
South Africa.
So yeah, man, just look.
Is it too late to invite them back to take over from where they stopped?
I don't think that's going
Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, did we get independence a little bit too early? That's an interesting
for me, I have
South Africa in 1994, and they are very well.
That's why I have a problem.
We can be proactive and ask them to come back.
I have problems with the lamentations. We have an opportunity
to invite them back.
No. As a country, we have an opportunity. I was just thinking, listening to Dr. Mushabe and other colleagues. When we narrow 50 years of independence to only political actors, I have a problem with that. I know as day follows the night for sure.
Whom do you want to bring? Alex Mukulu with his drummer.
Just listen to me. I know that for a fact that politics has affected our country adversely in the last 50 years. But I also know that that Tuesday event, and we go wrong when we put in the mindset of Uganda, it was just about politicians. For me, if you ask me, I think the Tuesday event was a national event, and that had to be led by government. But outside that, I think there should have been enough space for all Ugandans in their different calls of life, civil society, and please listen to me, because we people are listening to us, and our work is really actually to unwind and unpack the mindsets of Uganda.
You try to observe the politicians.
I'm not observing them. We have an obligation to unpack mindsets.
How do we do it? The politicians messed it up.
AKA is here with
66,
me.
71,
AKA is here with me. ACODE, together with the nation media, organized a big dialogue about Uganda at 50. We were able to rethink and relook where we want our country to go. That unconscious reopening of people thinking is going to check politicians. I want you to listen to me on this one. The women of Uganda, we came together across our political divide and said, we are women. It doesn't matter which political divide we come from or civil society organization we come from, we are women. What is it in it for us, the Uganda 50 past and the future?
Okay.
And for me, I think that that's the way to go. And because we have put ourselves in a small pot to be quashed, to be managed by people we call politicians, that's why we suffer. And we be saying, why wasn't all parties speaking at call? That's not the way to go.
All right.
We need to check a government in power from all angles to deliver to our people at any cost.
This is
I wanted to bring that back because it's very, very important. I know you're going to take me, but when we come back, I want to make that point that the biggest challenge we have as Ugandans is the mindset of our people. That is our role, each one of us.
Let's take a break. We'll be back. Do stay tuned to Spectrum.
Cranes, 13th October 2012, Mandela National Stadium, Nambole. Uganda Cranes versus Zambia. Brought to you by FUFA and
MTN. Everywhere you go.
The Woolworths Quality Sale is now on. Get up to 40% off selected fashion clothing at Woolworths Metroplex Mall, Northern Bypass, Nalia, and Garden City Shopping Centre, Lower Kololo. But hurry or you'll miss out. Woolworths, the difference.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. We're reviewing the week, looking at Uganda beyond the Golden Jubilee. It happened this week on Tuesday. We marked 50 years since independence from Britain. Some people think they went away too fast. If that's said, we would have maybe 10 Mulago hospitals, 10 ginger dams, and maybe 10 regional parliaments. But some people have you might agree with them, maybe you might not. Our guests tonight, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Ugandan representative to the East African Parliament, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also social and political commentator, Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACODE, that's a think tank, also lecturer of Peace and Security Studies at Makere, Dr. David Mushabe, senior partner at Mushabe, Munungu and Company Advocates. You might not be able to call in tonight, but you can send us your question via text. What you do is type the word Spectrum, question, message or comment, send it 7197. Nicholas Opiyo, how do we recommit government to providing for its people? Very briefly before we come to you, Dr. Arthur.
Thank you. Well, the truth of the matter is, an uneducated and poor people cannot hold their leaders accountable. You've got to begin from the premise of people being able to know what across them as a right and what is the role of government, what is their role as people in the governance of our country. I admit that there's a sense of twisted entitlements in our community.
Twisted entitlements. Explain that word.
That everything has got to be handed down to them. You see the youth fighting over 20 billion shillings. You see the women crying over. So that kind of mindset has got to be undone. And I agree with it. But the point that has to be made, though, is that the sole responsibility, the duty bearers for opening the eyes of our people, is not just me. It's not just Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. It's not Dr. Mushabe or Dr. Arthur. It is the primary responsibility of government to educate people to know about their rights, their responsibilities, and what they're supposed to do. In the absence of that, you're not going to have a demand side that is empowered, and that is where the problem then begins to come from. We must begin to educate our people beyond just this access. UP is about access, but I think we've got to address the issue of quality, the question of what are the kind of people we are producing in this country. Because if you don't have that, you're going to have people who have gone to school but can hardly write their names as they do in UP schools.
Dr. Arthur, you lecture at the university, but talk to us about broadly what battles you think we should be pressing to get this country moving forward.
Thank you very much, Edmond. I think one of the things that at ACODE we've come up to support, to champion our theory of change, what we think can be good for democracy, is linked with what Lydia has talked about, the people. The people. And how we are doing it is we think that there is a need to create or to build the demand side of democracy. And the demand side of democracy is building civic competence, massive civic competence.
Walk to work.
No. Civic competence, because you see, walk to work is of course emotional and revolutionary and sometimes can lead to absurdity. But the civic competence I'm talking about, it means that when people ask, when they demand these resources, they also know their duties and obligations. And this is what we've done through some of our projects. We realized that actually in this country, since this government came to power, they have built the supply side of democracy. The political institutions have been put in place, but are they delivering? Talk about the IGG, the Auditor General, and all the legislation, but corruption has skyrocketed. What is the problem? So we think that the problem lies in the lack of people's capacity to demand, and when they demand, what do they demand?
Civic awareness.
We call it, I'm talking about, civic awareness to bring it, but civic competence. Civic competence in a sense that people are going to demand from their leaders as a right. They are not asking for a soda. They are not asking for pride. They are asking quality health system. They are asking are asking where do our taxes go. And so we've done that through some of our 2 projects actually. One that seeks to build to make the budget accountable and transparent, so that we are able to track money from the center to the last person, and another one by building the capacity of the local governments and assessing the performance of our local leaders, and linking their performance with delivery of services, and then building people's consciousness around services, because we are talking about water, health sector, the road sector, education, so that people, when they demand this, they demand as a right, and they also know that their taxes have come here. So that's what we are trying to do. For instance, when the government abolished graduated tax, people thought that they no longer pay tax, but they are paying indirect tax.
Some people are disconnect.
There's a disconnect. They think whatever they get from government, in many cases, is free of charge. They don't know.
They think the government is doing them a
favor. So now it is important to tell this, to give the capacity of our people to demand quality goods and services, or service delivery as a right. But of course also build their capacity to ask themselves, what is our contribution? For instance, one of our killers of our democracy, one of the things that has undermined our democracy was monetization of elections. You ask people cannot ask for
monetization of
because they sold their votes to their leaders, and now they can't ask for a good road transaction because they actually sold their right to those services. Now we have to educate them and say, don't do this, because by doing this, then if you have gone good education for your child, clean water, and quality health sector for yourselves.
I have just one example to give, because what Arthur is saying, and these things can happen. Some things people look like it is a tall order, it is a given. But on Thursday, Parliament of Kenya passed a bill to give members of parliament a take-home package of $110,000 US.
About 300 million almost.
So what happened? The media picked it up, the civil society picked it up, and they've been able to get the head of state to refuse to accept that bill.
Right.
Of course, there's a provision in the law that if he refuses, they by a 2/3 majority they can pass. But Kenyans are vowed, because they think that it is undermines the other service sector services, like the pay for the doctors, for the teachers. They really want a fair share of the national services, and they put up a fight. That tells that now leaders are going to be held accountable by wananchi, and there is a price to pay. But this now will never happen again, because nobody else will take such a bill in the house, because people are alert. And that's why, for me, I think that politics is for all of us, and there's everybody's role to play. The media, the civil society, the different segments of this thing is ours. The moment you leave somebody else, human beings are selfish by nature. By nature. So I'm just giving you an example that we all have a role to play.
Well,
and everything will be enough space for all of us to enjoy the future of Uganda.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can take part if you're on the internet. You go to Facebook, look for Spectrum Debate, Google it, and find it. Spectrum Debate, and you can send your comments via that Facebook page. Even throughout the week, you can be informed of what topic is coming up, so you can prepare yourself. Even send your questions well in advance. Dr. Mushabe, how do we deliver patriotism and some of the other values that we share? Hard work, honesty. How do we do that? Put a desk somewhere.
The one who preaches patriotism must demonstrate that he's patriotic.
How do you do it?
The one who preaches nationalism must demonstrate that he's nationalistic. The words cannot contradict your actions, or your actions cannot contradict your words. What has happened in Uganda? We have these big politicians. They preach one thing, they do something else. Politics equals leadership. And leaders are entrusted with the role of educating the masses. They can educate the masses or miseducate the masses. Some of us have contested in Ugandan elective politics. You come, you go there, you educate the people, you show them their rights, you tell them that 1,000 shillings can buy their vote for 5 years, and nothing will be done. Now, some big people come, and they throw money around, and the mindset changes. Why? There is this thing that I have had for so many years, order from above.
Yes.
When somebody comes and swings his weight around, and he makes the impression that he's from above or he's highly connected, then our illiterate masses believe those who are from above.
They think you can stop that.
So there is a massive miseducation of the African people, not only in Uganda, but in most of Africa. So the small fish cannot educate the masses and change the mindset, like my sister here, the Honorable Wanyoto, has been saying. It has to be the government, the members of parliament, the ministers, the NGOs. You, a good-hearted Ugandan, cannot go and change people at the grassroots. They listen to you, but tomorrow when somebody big comes and says something else and
they listen to that
around, they listen to that one. So the NGOs have a big role. There's one point, something was mentioned about oil and gas.
Yes.
My beloved president said, with the oil and the gas that we recently found, it will be easy to fund at least infrastructure projects. Not when you have not attacked corruption. What has been eating the current resources we have had? Billions with Kazinda, billions with this oil scandal, billions in health and yes. If you don't close that same monster will even eat the oil money.
Maybe the monster will be satisfied by the time the oil comes.
Won't, because it has not been satisfied in Nigeria, it has not been satisfied in Gabon, it has not been satisfied in Namibia, it has not been satisfied in
India as well.
This other African country which has oil. All these African countries which have oil, they live in abject poverty.
Not all of them.
The ones which have oil?
Not all of them.
Okay.
Anyway, go on.
You shall educate me on that. But I know that most of them, the oil money is in the hands of just a few. The rest are just in problems, the abject poverty. So this oil thing is overrated. When we say we shall use the oil money to solve our problems, we are more or less sounding like this man contesting with Obama.
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney, he has been put to task, but all these things you are promising, how are you going to do them? There is no formula, no figures, there is no roadmap, but I shall do them. That is what Africa has been subjected to. Of course, when we say that some countries like China have successfully utilized the parastatals, what happened to our parastatals? That is an admission. That was shooting oneself in the foot. These parastatals were one way of creating employment and also delivering in certain sectors. Now here, when the West talked about privatization, we panicked. We wanted to quickly appease the West. And we said, okay, we want free economy. But we're not there yet. We're not ready for the free economy. Over 200 parastatals were privatized and we have nothing to show.
We didn't even see the money.
We didn't even see the money. So really, independence, while the West's politics, the Western politics is driven by the private sector and the economy, the African politics is driven by purely political interests. Who's in power? Who has the muscle? Who can flex a bigger muscle? Then that one. When a politician coughs, a businessman catches a cold.
Yes.
Who catches a cold. But in the West, when Bill Gates coughs, the politicians also will catch a cold. So I think we need to plead with our politicians and say, look, can you first educate our masses and stop miseducating them? Secondly, can you empower the private sector so that the private sector can influence the business, the political sector? That's all I can say.
Edmond,
Nicholas Opiyo
about patriotism. How we can teach that?
Oh, you found a magic from the tablet.
We can teach people patriotism.
You sure?
I mean, let's just look at countries where people love their country. It's a sense of belonging.
They didn't do it on a blackboard?
It's a sense of collectiveness. You cannot teach these things in a class. It's a sense of belonging. That sense of belonging derives from being a part of the overall project called that country, being a part of the development process, being a beneficiary. Ask many people in this country, why are you proud to be Ugandan? They will hardly have a reason. I think that we must begin to make the state a crucial provider for the people in this country as a whole, not a devourer of its own people. Because if you do that,
the state devours
a predator. I mean, look at our hospitals, look at the number of women who are dying because of the delivery. We've got to make people proud of their country by being a part of the process. Look at the Uganda cranes. I think that's the only
football team.
Exactly.
The only single event where the whole country thinks this is our team. Okay? Because the team, first and foremost, admits everybody. If you're going to watch a football match, you buy a ticket and you enter.
They won't ask you to try where you come.
They don't ask you for permission to walk to work, to come to Kololo. That sort of thing discourages people from being a part of the country of Uganda.
Brought pride to all of us.
Yeah, he did.
Nicholas, do you think corruption will never be punished in this beloved nation? It was once called the Pearl of Africa.
Corruption is being punished, but the point is, the grand big corruption is not being punished in the way.
Say that again, with a straight face.
Corruption is being punished at different
satisfactorily.
I practice in law, and I see many people go to jail because of corruption. I mean, Che is in jail right now for how many years because of corruption. Kirujinja lost his seat because he was censured by Parliament for stealing 2,000 liters of fuel. So we think that corruption is being punished, but the problem is the grand
is corruption being punished adequately.
The poster boys of corruption are not being punished, or poster women of corruption are not being punished in the way Ugandans think they should be punished.
Dr. before I come to you, Madam.
Yes, I think I just wanted to differ from my brother, Dr. Mushabe, on the strategy of economic growth. That I think time has come now to not to look back and look at our parastatals, now authorities and that kind of thing. I just want to think that as a generation now, we should come up with our own things because we have unique challenges that face us as a generation. In fact, I was discussing with an elder statesman this morning. I was asking whether our generation has stopped thinking, because if you look at the proverbs, I come from Ankole, most of the proverbs that we use, they are very old. No, they are proverbs by the old people, and I have not seen any proverb. Dr. Mushabe will tell me. So I was asking, is as our generation stopped thinking, they are not coming up with new tales and proverbs. So, but the point I'm talking about, I think first, I want to agree with the market sector, the market economy-led growth, that because we are inherently selfish, selfishness that is actually promoted by the private sector-led economy is important because it draws our potential to work harder.
It galvanizes energy.
It does galvanizes energy. Because the parastatals actually first was state doing business, and the governments over the world have proved that they cannot be good at doing business.
Well, in China, there's
too much corruption. Actually, there's too much corruption. You see, what they do, they privatize like management and that kind of thing. So the bottom line I'm talking about is, yes, private sector, but with government regulation, because you also don't want the Wall Street scenario where you allow everything to be controlled by the private sector or the business, and then greed, of course, then can overtake us and kill us. But when people are allowed and to compete, they use their full potential and to develop this country. But the final point is about really creating conditions that allow our middle class to grow. In this country, we have a middle class.
Has it I used to say corruption.
We have grown rich people that last for 2 years and then they disappear. And simply because most of the investments is corrupt money. I would want a leadership that actually that inspires people to work hard, to cherish hard work, even from the foundation of a family. So because it is that hard work, it is the money achieved through hard work that is sustainable, that actually we can live with our children and the children of our children. But this money gotten through corruption really is a guest in the house.
Honorable Wanyoto, is it time for President Museveni to retire?
That cannot be an answer on spectrum. That's a decision of the Ugandans. There is a process. Actually, like Arthur said earlier, the issues of political transition, I still insist that we should not shy away from this question. It's a constitutional matter, and that Ugandans must face it. You cannot have an individual and you keep discussing him on every radio when
it's not just about any other individual.
No, I know that, but there are processes.
He's a behemoth of Ugandan politics.
Yeah, but is he hanging himself there by force? No, he's not. And let's be fair to this process. There is a constitutional process through which we elect leaders and dispose of leaders. There's a process which you, if you are tired, you express yourself through the process again. So really, we cannot come and say that we are tired. No. When 2016 comes,
whether true or not.
Yeah.
Whether
so
you
that
are
is
not.
no, that's your opinion. But to me, I think I'm being factual about what we have in Uganda. I'm a member of parliament. I can be voted in and out.
Right.
If you don't, the president vote him out. In 2016, as for now, he's the president.
Oh yes, he is.
He is.
Julian.
Then the other, or when he gets 75 years,
it will no longer be possible. Unless the
constitutional arrangement I'm talking about. So really, I think we should not be splitting hairs on the matter.
And he's still a young man. He's 20 years.
That's what I'm saying, Edmond. I have to correct you on that. Is this issue of a market and building potential is very, very important. That the next 50 years we don't have to see Ugandans who are spectators in their own country. So the issue of help people to have full potential on building a knowledge economy, because where we are going is the global dynamics. People must go to school properly. They must have quality skills to be able to have potential, not to be spectators in the market where they're supposed to be purchasing goods.
Watching the Premiership League, I don't watch football because I don't want to become a spectator for anything. After Bainomugisha, vision for 2040, is it a good thing? Will it deliver these things it promises?
First, I want to thank Edmond for bringing the vision 2040, and I must.
He bring the vision himself.
Yeah, because
it's bring it up now.
This goes more than one. One of the greatest criticisms of the vision is that actually it wasn't popular. The participation was very limited, and it seemed to have been actually a rushed job. And although the whole context is good, that a country without a vision or a shared vision, of course, is lost. So that we have that vision is good, but when you open up the vision, of course, where a lot is found to be wanting, and I'm afraid that actually we need to go back on the drawing board, because if we get the vision wrong, we want to make it.
Yeah, there hasn't been a final vision.
Yes, but that draft, so the point I'm making, it's like writing a constitution. A vision of a country is like writing a constitution. The constitution must be engaged in by all the population that is supposed to serve. But if it doesn't, actually, it will be just a paper, a piece of paper. Because unless the constitution is written in the hearts and the mind of the people,
it's not
remains here.
The Brits have an in-region constitution. Dr. Mushabe, does it give you good promise? That vision 2040.
Well, it is. I think it is still blurred. It is not clear. When I was reading these points, they are recycled 10-point.
There's a photograph of flowers on the cover.
1986. But I want to make a point that I was there. I had just finished S6. I'm an old man. We can't roll back privatization, my brother Dr. Bainomugisha. We can't roll back privatization, but we should manage it properly. But I want to at least outline some of the achievements. I don't want us to be bashing
the fundamental change.
Yes, the army is better trained today, and you can argue with an army officer and he won't slap you, maybe in some isolated places, but by and large it is an army of the people. Secondly, education. There is a lot that still hasn't been done, but we have universal education. Yeah, the quantitative, the qualitative is lacking, but at least President Museveni and NRM have given us something to work with. There is somebody who knows how to do quality work. They have something to work with.
That is the future.
The third point is freedom. To a certain extent, there is freedom, especially in the economic sector. You can eat. It is a dog world. You can outcompete the other people, make money as much as you can. In the political sector, it is limited. You can say things, but as long as you don't talk about certain thorny issues.
Is that true of the economic sector as well?
The economic sector, my brother Bainomugisha was talking about
billionaires who just emerge from nowhere.
Yes, you see, we are talking about education. We are saying let us educate people, change the mindset of the people who graduate from the university, EALA, then they'll be better business people. But which university did Murwana attend? Which university did Wavamuna attend?
I think that's the tragedy of this country.
No, but the things have changed, Dr. Mushabe. The world has changed.
What I'm saying is that maybe at the universities there are certain things they are overlooking. We are flying the plane and we don't show them the runway where they are supposed to land the plane. We should at the university now teach them how to land the plane, not to remain in the sky. Otherwise they will crash.
Dr. Arthur, defend the academics.
I think first one of the I think sometimes the NRM lacks good cadres. I think that's what clearly at the NTV ACODE forum. I felt that there was no one actually to showcase what the NRM has done. When it comes, actually Nagenda did not defend or even project the achievements. One, in terms of the education sector, let me tell you guys, education sets people free. Education as an investment in human capital really has liberated us. Some of us are here because education has pulled us from nowhere to here, and I think of course that's a credit to the NRM opening wide the gates of universities that many people have gone in, but also the universities, over 30 universities around this country is not a mean achievement. The UPE, I want to agree with you, Dr. Mushabe. UPE, UCE,
technical institution.
UCE, all that is a good.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? More
education, I think.
Suppose it's upside down.
Wait. Opening opportunities for people for education, because as I said, what is education? An investment in human capital. What is human capital? We are talking about knowledge and skills. To be able to liberate our people by imparting them with knowledge and skills, liberalizing it is a good thing. The challenge for NRM now is how do you now perfect the quality of education remains one thing, and I think the next phase should be an investment in quality education, because also giving people an underdose. Producing massively people who are not well educated. They are there. They can be dangerous, especially in a country that is conflict prone. And I think that's where the next, the leaders should focus their attention, improving the quality of education.
We have to go, but before we go, let's hear from what some of our listeners sent in today. Tony in Soroti said, Spectrum, how can people demand in a country where MPs are bribed and others are tear gassed? That's Tony in Soroti. Somebody else says, Uganda is like a destitute even though it survived. Peter in Bukoto says, the politicians are part of the people. The people get leaders like them. Look at election practices. Be fair to the leaders when talking about corruption. Peter again says, Edmond, I'm a contractor. I face corruption on a daily basis from low to high people, lorry drivers, etc. Corruption is a virus in society. Politicians are not saints. Somebody else says, Spectrum, in the next 50 years, I want a government that thinks about a common man through subsidizing services such as education. Imagine I was admitted at Makerere University, but couldn't join because of tuition. That's a sentimental one. We have to go at that point. Thank you very much, our dear guests, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Uganda representative to the East African Parliament, also a lawyer. Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, another lawyer. He's a legal consultant at AKIJUL, a social and political commentator as well. Dr. Arthur Bainomugisha, the only non-lawyer tonight, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACODE, also lecturer of Peace and Security Studies at Makerere. Dr. David Mushabe, senior partner at Mushabe, Munungu and Company Advocates. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Kizito. Spectrum will be back on Monday. Have a very meaningful and victorious weekend if possible.
Thank you, Edmond. I didn't.
Open and ice cold, Nile Gold.